What kinds of stories get the most laughs from an audience? In my experience, you might not like the answer, it's self-deprecating stories. It's stories that you tell, putting yourself in a vulnerable position, and maybe they're even embarrassing stories, but those ones that audiences have the chance to relate to you on, and they feel bad for you and they cringe on your behalf, those often get the most laughter. And in this video, I'm going to give you a couple of tips of how you can identify that story and how you can deliver it with ease the next time you have a speech, incorporating it into a speech perhaps, and get the most laughter possible from your audience. Hey everyone, my name is Wade Patterson and my YouTube channel is all about impactful communication. If you want to be a better public speaker, please consider subscribing to my channel. I aim to put out a lot of video content about all elements of communication, and I think that by subscribing, you will get a lot of benefit out of these videos that I'm producing. So where this video stemmed from is the fact that I am a Toastmasters member, and I've been so for about 7 years now. And one of the elements in Toastmasters is a role called Humorist or Joke Master. And there's other videos on my YouTube channel where I've specifically spoken about that type of role, but I wanted to make a more general video because not everyone is part of Toastmasters, so that video might not have appealed to them. But an observation that I made after watching several club members take on this humorist role, which by the way, the whole purpose is to make the club laugh. It's right off the top of the meeting and it's to get some laughter going, get those positive vibes going at the beginning of the meeting. But I noticed that many members would try to use canned materials or jokes that perhaps they found online, and it would be an awkward couple minutes many times when they tried to use this strategy. It is very difficult to tell a joke, especially somebody else's joke, in a way that gets a lot of laughter. There's things like comedic timing, there's things like delivery that not all of us have those natural abilities. So when we try to take that content and force it on people to laugh, maybe it works. Maybe you're one of those people who can tell jokes really well and you're able to pause at the right spots. But for the majority of us, it's not a way that is easy to get laughter. But on the contrary, what I found is that people who would tell personal stories had a much higher likelihood of getting the audience to laugh and engage more deeply with the speech or the story that they were telling. But what I found even beyond the personal story piece was that the stories that involved self-deprecating humor, so the people who told stories about themselves that put themselves in a vulnerable position, those got the most laughs possible. And as I mentioned at the very top of the video, I think the biggest reason for that is that the audience feels for you. They put themselves in your position. They could see the same thing happening to themselves, but the fact that you are so brave and you are making fun of yourself while telling this story, they're on the edge, they're waiting to laugh. And so this is something that really engages with those individuals. So how do you tangibly come up with these types of stories? Well, there's a few categories you can start thinking about of where to find these from. The first thing is, what is a story you have told many times before to your family member or friends? Maybe you never thought of it as being part of a speech. It's just a great story. You're around the campfire, you always tell this story. Whatever that is, consider chopping it up, twisting the format, adapting it to whatever it is that your greater speech is about, because that is something that when incorporated properly, when you have a tested story that you know always gets laughs and you can adapt it to fit the format of whatever it is you're going to talk about, that is one really powerful way to get humor from the audience. If there's not a story like that that comes to mind, think about some of the most embarrassing moments you've ever had. And I realized that if they're very embarrassing moments, maybe not everything is going to be appropriate to tell within a speech, depending on who it is that you're speaking to. But often these embarrassing moments are the perfect example of what an audience can relate to, can resonate with. And if you tell this really well, putting yourself under the bus, and the reason I say yourself is because it doesn't always work well. I've told I've heard people tell stories about other people, and sometimes they're funny depending on the delivery, but sometimes they almost come across as mean-spirited. But when you're putting yourself out there, you've got permission to talk about yourself. You're the one choosing to do so. And so the audience can relax. They don't have to worry that this may be offending somebody else. They know you're okay with telling it, and they know that they have permission to laugh. Some of the tips I give with any humorous speech that you're incorporating is try to get the audience to laugh early. The earlier you can do that, the more laughter it's going to cause throughout the speech. It's almost like opening the floodgates. The longer sometimes somebody speaks before getting any laughter, the audience might be making up their minds that this just isn't going to be a funny speech, this isn't a funny person, and it gets harder and harder the longer the speech goes to actually get them to laugh. If you can get your audience to laugh within the first 20 seconds, it's going to relax them, and it's probably going to cause ripple effects of laughter throughout the entire speech. It also does wonders for yourself. When an audience is laughing, you know they are enjoying themselves. So by telling a self-deprecating story, but identifying a couple funny parts early on, not just one long build up to the punchline, get them laughing a couple times early on, start that, and then the momentum will carry throughout the story. A final piece of advice, again, if you're telling any type of humorous story, is to have strategic pauses to get laughter. What I mean by this is there are certain, maybe it's a punchline, maybe it's a certain delivery of something that you know usually gets laughter, especially if this is a story you've told many times before. As you're telling that story, force yourself in those key moments to pause. When you think there's going to be laughter, give it a little bit of a pause. And even if there isn't right away, just take a moment. And it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to want to keep speaking, but sometimes even if the audience doesn't laugh, you just give a couple of looks and the way your body language and like raise an eyebrow or something like that, and that alone can cause the laughter sometimes. If the audience is laughing, don't cut them off. Allow them to laugh. If you say something very funny and there's a lot of laughter, don't rush to jump into your next sentence. Allow that laughter to fill out, because sometimes that will even cause more laughter and the audience will enjoy it even more. So allow the audience to laugh and implement those strategic pauses, which gives them that opportunity to do so. I understand that the idea of telling an embarrassing or a personal story is not an easy one for anyone, but I hope this video gives you some ideas. Perhaps as I've been talking, you've started to think about some of your own personal examples, and I challenge you next time, even if it's a speech at a wedding, or perhaps it's a report that you're delivering for your business, but you know that there's an opportunity to sprinkle in a little bit of creativity and a funny story. If you have a story that is self-deprecating, that is appropriate within the format, just try it out and see if it works. And then leave me a comment below if you have any stories like that, if you found that there's a particular speech that has really worked well for you and you've incorporated this type of humor. I would love to hear about it. I hope this video brought you a lot of value. If it did, please consider subscribing to my channel. I am going to continue to put out videos to help make you a more impactful communicator, and I'll see you on the next one.